Welcome back for another video. My name is Khandy, and today's topic is going to be adopting a preemie. So, remember I spoke about in another video that you're going to have a call with your agency, and it's going to be a preference call. And when we had our preference call, we had no preference about gender, race, things like that, but we were not open to any exposure to drugs and alcohol, things like that. They even ask you about states that you're open to, all types of different things that we said yes, no. And one thing that they tell you in the beginning of the call, and there is zero judgment, be as honest as possible. Because if you are dishonest, you have to remember whatever you say no to, they are not going to show your profile to any birth mother that fits those criteria. So if I say I am not interested in any baby that is going to be a boy, and birth mom already knows the gender of her baby, and it's a boy, even if they are interested in mine and Kenny's profile, we're not going to get shown because we're not interested in a boy. We are only interested in a girl. So you need to be 100% honest with them when you're having this preference. One thing that never came up was the preemie question. And I mean, I guess it probably wouldn't come up because I mean, it happened. Now I know that it happens often, but probably not more often than a full-term baby. So, as most of you have probably watched our story, which I will also leave the link below. And Kenny, don't get confused. I have wrote down where I'll leave the link below so you're not just like watching things. I'm making it easier on you. It's my director and editor over here. I kind of left out that part. So when Janae, our coordinator called us, our adoption coordinator called us and said that she had a potential opportunity. That's why she had to make sure that we were open to showing our profile to birth mom, because our daughter was a preemie. She was a 28 weeker. And so when she said that to me, my first question to her were, are there any health issues that we know of? And she said, absolutely no health issues. We got the call for our daughter on the 26th. She was born on the 25th, which was Christmas Day. So it was a little bit over 24 hours. She had already been born. That's a lot of time in preemie world. If any of you are preemie parents or work in healthcare, you know that that's a lot of time. So anything could happen in that time. So as of right then, she had zero issues. So I said, okay, you can go ahead. And I also said, even though we had said no in our preference call, was there any drug exposure or alcohol exposure to birth mom? And she said no. Okay. And that's why I agreed to go ahead and show our profile to birth mom. Anybody that is familiar with any type of gestation, you know that there is a reason why a baby is supposed to be in that mommy's tummy for 40 weeks. A lot of things happen. Babies develop. There is a reason why they're supposed to be in there. So there are a lot of complications that can come with the child that is born before then, especially one that's born at 28 weeks. What we found out later was the babies that have the best chance and do the best are African American female babies, which I didn't know that until we got to the hospital and we spoke with the NICU nurses. So we got to the hospital and immediately we went to the NICU, and she was this tiny, long. She was long. She still is long. She was this tiny little 2-pound, 8-ounce baby. And, we saw her for very shortly along with birth mom. And then we went back to birth mom's room and we, signed whatever paperwork we needed to sign with attorney, birth mom, and had everything notarized. And we stayed at the hospital because, instantly we were her now parents and we were responsible for her. just like that, we became very protective of her. So we spoke with her physicians, we spoke with her nurses, and everyone was very nice with us. They were very transparent with us, and they were so positive about her. They were like, she's been doing great. She's had no issues. And we're not really worried. And it just kind of gave us a self, like some type of assurance. And when you're there in that NICU, it's scary because this is just not how you pictured it. You know what I mean? You picture you go to the hospital, you spend maybe a day or two, and then you leave and you come home with baby. They gave us a list of things that she would need in order to be discharged. And because I was ready to go, I promise you, we were there for about less than 2 hours. And I was like, when can she be discharged? It was crazy because I was already ready to go. Oh God, when I got the list, I was like, oh gosh. Okay, so she was 2 pounds, 8 ounces. She had to be at least 4 pounds. She had to be at least 35 weeks. Was it 35 weeks? Yeah, she had to be at least 35 weeks. She had to be, oh my gosh, I hate it even thinking about it. So she has to be 35 weeks, at least 4 pounds. She had to have no bad alarms. So no DSATs, no apneas, this beeping, beep, 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 beep that you hear. And thank God, it was probably like maybe, when she hit like maybe 32 weeks, she wasn't having any alarms. She was just cruising. She was just cruising through. She was doing fine. She had to finish all her bottles because when babies are born that young, they don't know how to breathe, suck, and swallow. You have to teach them how to suck a bottle. You have to teach them how to breathe at the same time. These are things that they just aren't born knowing how to do. They have a feeding tube. So as soon as they told me 35 weeks, I immediately went into my head and I said, okay, that's going to be Valentine's Day weekend. So I said she's going to come home Valentine's Day weekend. I was absolutely right. But as long as she had no setbacks, that's when she was going to come home. And that's exactly when she came home. So we started our new lives. Our new lives were getting an Airbnb. We were in a hotel at that time, and it was a night after we came home from the hospital. I went on to Airbnb, Vrbo, and HomeAway, and I sent a very long message to about maybe 35 to 45 homes. Kenny was sleeping, and I wrote this heartfelt message to all of them, and I said, hey, we are family, we are in town, we live 14 hours away in North Carolina. My husband is active duty military. We have just adopted a baby, and she was born at 28 weeks, and we are looking for a place to stay, and is there anything that you'd be able to do to help us out? We got a few responses, and one lady, she did reach out to us, and she was just amazing. She was able to allow us to rent her house, and it was more than 50% off. Her son is actually stationed where Kenny was stationed at the same time, and her family were just so gracious to us. So what I'm going to say to you is, if you're in this situation and you are adopting, be okay with being vulnerable. Be okay with being transparent, because people are willing to help you out. Just be okay with that, because we in no way, shape, or form, again, were prepared to just move out of state for more than 2 months with our dogs. This was just something that was thrown upon us. So when I say in that video, and I will upload the link to that one too, be prepared for anything, you need to be prepared for anything, because this was just something that we did not prepare for. So she was so gracious to us, and the house was the perfect house. Like, I say that Kenny and I joke about it all the time, but I wish that was our house, because this house is just way too big, and that house was the perfect size for us, the baby, and the dogs. It was just perfect. So our new life started. Thankfully, I was able to stop working immediately. I had already, as soon as we got connected with that initial birth mom I had mentioned in a previous video, I had put in the paperwork with our HR department at work to submit for maternity leave whenever it would happen. So HR already had that paperwork. Whenever we got the baby, all I had to do was send it in, which I did when we initially got to the hospital in Tennessee. Kenny was able to speak with his command, and they were so gracious to put him on a EMFP,
Meaning humanitarian hardship.
military hardship program. And so he was able to stay in Tennessee with us the entire time that she was in the NICU, the entire time. So our full-time jobs were being at the hospital for a shift. And when I say a shift, I mean whatever NICU nurse was there, we were there with her. Hello. We weren't annoying parents, but we were there with her the entire time. I wholeheartedly believe, because we were there so much with our daughter, being able to kangaroo for 6 to 8 hours a day helped her development. She never had one hiccup. To this day, she's never had a stuffy nose. And she's almost 2 years old. She'll be 2 years old very soon. She's never had a stuffy nose. She's never really been sick. Nothing. Being able to spend all those hours, 12 hours a day with her, read to her, sing to her, talk to her, I think all those things really helped with her development. Now, my mind was going insane because every single time your phone rang or you heard an alert on your phone, you just didn't know, because that NICU, let's be honest, children die there, babies die there. It's an intensive care unit for babies. Babies get transferred out all the time because they have to go to, a more acute hospital because that specific hospital cannot deal with whatever's going on with them. And it is traumatic. You are just thankful for every single day that you get that call after you leave and it's like, she's put on weight, whether it's an ounce or we increased her feed. Whatever good news you get, it is like, check the box, check the box, check the box. And every single night we were checking a box. Every single night we were checking a box. It was just, it's traumatic. I mean, there's no other ways to say it. It was traumatic. It was 52 days of, and again, our adoption journey was 52 days, and she was also in the hospital for 52 days. It was crazy. But it was, it's traumatic. I wouldn't wish it on any parent ever. And our journey was so seamless, meaning that she didn't really need any extra care, any extra services, any extra medical support. But so many babies do. And you just feel so, your heart just melts for their parents because you just want their babies to be better. You want their babies to get discharged because all you're hoping for every day is that phone call or that visit from the doctor saying, okay, in 2 days they can go home. In 2 days they can go home. In 2 days they can go home as long as they do this. I think it was maybe like the first 2-3 days. We didn't even get to see her face. And I remember when they took the CPAP off, we were like, oh my God, she's so cute, because you don't get to see her face. But she was adorable. I mean, she still is like perfect. She's beautiful. But it's, I wouldn't wish them on anybody. It took a few weeks. Then you start giving them little baths. You don't want to miss that. That's at nighttime. So if you can be there, if you're working at night, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're there for these moments. Also understand that the nurses are documenting every single thing. So the parents that are there a lot, the nurses are documenting this because they want to make sure that when that baby is discharged and released into your care, you know what to do, especially those of you that have babies that may be on the sicker side. So please make sure that you are being as hands-on as possible with your children, okay? I know that they're tiny, but they need you more than anything in the world. So when Peyton started bottle feeding, she got it, but she didn't get it. And I'm not patient with anything. And I know that I was kind of pushing it more than the nurses wanted to push it. And it's like, you got to follow the nurses' lead. So if the nurses are saying, relax, she'll get it, listen to the nurses, because that's really what I had to do. She eventually got it. Then one day I walked into the NICU and she was in a big girl crib. She wasn't in the incubator anymore. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we're one step closer. And then the next week I walked in and I felt like all her stuff was packed up. And I was like, well, what's going on? And they said, oh, she's moving to step down. And it's like, when you're moving to step down, that's like outside of the NICU, that's like across the hall where the parents can spend the night. And it was like, oh, she's about to go home. And so the doctor came and he spoke with me. And, he let me know that she was doing great and we can move her to step down and, what we're looking for and that the feeds are going to start increasing. And then it's just like fast paced after that. Well, fast paced to them, not to us, because it was just like, well, what are we doing? Step down was a little difficult for us because the nurses in NICU were like the A squad. It was almost like, what is that, like the NBA All-Stars? That's what they were. It was like you had Jordan and LeBron and Kobe and you had them. And then we went over there and you had, I had problems with everybody except for like 3 of them. And again, because Kenny and I were very hands-on with her care and I expected a certain type of care to be given to my daughter and I felt like it wasn't happening. And yeah, I would complain because what are we doing? So this just made me want to stay at the hospital longer. And Kenny would get annoyed and I get that. But what are we going to do, people? If I felt like the nurses weren't doing their job, I felt like I had to stay there. Let's fast forward. Peyton started finishing her bottles. And it was Valentine's Day. And Kenny and I walked in with like our matching red shirts. They weren't matching, but they were red. And we just walked in with plans to go to lunch that day. We had her little matching, and we had her little red onesie, and it said like my first Valentine's Day. I had stuff for her first photo shoot because I am that mom. And we were walking past the nurse practitioner. She was sitting like at her little desk doing her charting. And she looked at us and she said, if all goes well today, if she finishes every one of her bottles, she can go home tomorrow. And I was like, not even remembering that I said Valentine's Day weekend. And it was just like, I looked at Kenny and I said, you are not leaving this hospital, because I was too nervous to stay at that point because I felt like I was going to mess it up. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Kenny, you have to stay. She had to pass a car seat test. Okay, every baby that is a preemie has to pass a car seat test. They have to make sure that they can sit in the chair for an hour without having a bad alarm. Remember I told you those bad alarms? When Peyton was doing the car seat test, I think it was in the evening, the lights were low. They had all her little leads on, which, are monitoring her heart rate and her breathing. And Kenny and I were just sitting there like mice, so quiet. And the hour went by like this, but we were so nervous. And while this was happening, I was texting everybody like, please pray. Please pray. She's doing her car seat test. If she passes this, we can get discharged tomorrow. And everybody was like, we got you, we got you, we got you, we got you, we got you. And she passed and I was like, oh, girl. Oh. So it was probably like maybe 10 o'clock. I left to go home. And I was probably back at the hospital by like 4 o'clock because I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep. I could not sleep. I could not sleep. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, what are we doing? And I needed, I have to work on my patience. And I got to the hospital in the morning. The nurse came in and of course, Kenny is sleeping and I have to give this child this bottle, and I don't want to give her this bottle because I'm so afraid she's not going to finish it. And I feel like the nurse is taking super long charting and she's just asking me all these unnecessary questions with answers that I shouldn't even know, like her pediatrician back home. Like, thank God this little girl finished this bottle, which she must have been starving. I don't even know what happened the night before, but she must have been starving. And I was so happy because again, Kenneth fell asleep and left me to figure this out on my own. Complete fail. But what? You don't remember?
You don't remember correctly, obviously, but continue.
You don't remember you fell asleep?
Continue.
Oh, this is perfect timing for him to come in and join because we have had, and listen, we have had requests for Kenny to join. He said that he will join. So there will be an episode of Kenny joining in to give his perspective from the dad's point of view. So she finished her bottle. We were all good to go. I had to run to Target to go get a car seat because our car seat stroller bassinet set that I ordered was still in transit. So I hurried up and I left to go to Target to get a car seat. I just needed something that could hold the baby that was 4 pounds. I think by the time she was discharged, she was either 4 pounds 11 ounces or 4 pounds 13 ounces. And I went to Target, spoke with them, got whatever car seat they said was the best. Came back, Kenny installed the car seat, and I would just look at it. I said, can you just take the leads off of her? Because that's all I wanted. Like, take these off, because if anything happens and this thing goes off, you literally have to stay there for 5 more days. I would have died. Like, literally, I'd have passed out on the hospital floor, and that would have been it. They took the leads off. We put her little outfit on her, and in my mind, I always thought that I would have like this really euphoric feeling driving away from the hospital. I promise you, I didn't even realize that we were driving away with the baby. I think I was just like, we have to get out of here. Like, that's where my mind was. I was like, we have to leave, we have to leave, we have to leave. And so when we got her in the car and I just pulled away, I didn't even realize that we were driving away from the hospital with the baby in the car because I was so just like, get home, get home, get home, get home, get home, get home. And that's literally where our lives just like changed, and we really had a baby. This little perfect little thing. And she was amazing. She has thrived as a preemie. She hasn't had any setbacks, thank God. I'm so thankful to this day. Because it was no fault of her first mom's that she went into preterm labor. Certain things just happen. But, she's healthy. She's doing well. She's just this perfect little baby. So for all you preemie parents out there, whether your child has caught up, whether they are still struggling in certain areas, just hang in there. They're fighters. I mean, they've fought a bigger fight than most of us adults. Trust me, they have. I mean, you know it as their parents. It is hard. You can't really talk to your friends because they don't get it. If your friends have children and they just came home from the hospital, they don't get it. It is traumatic. And I say that, and I haven't dealt with a lot of the trauma that some of you other parents have dealt with. So there are a lot of Facebook support groups for preemie parents. So if you are not in any of those, I suggest that you join them because a lot of us do have similar stories. But you just have to make sure that you are your child's number one advocate and you are trying your hardest, and don't ever put any type of wall or any type of stigma on your child because they have that preemie with them. I never did that. Oh, well, they're preemie, so they're going to be this behind, or they shouldn't be doing this yet because they are preemie. I never did that with her, or I try not to do that with her with certain things because it's just like, says who? You know what I mean? Says who? So you just have to make really intentional decisions and just try your hardest and just be as strong as you can be, especially while you're in the NICU. Listen, if you need to get some sleep, go get some sleep, because people told me that all the time. My husband used to tell me that all the time. The nurses used to tell me that all the time. Go home and sleep. I wish I'd have went home and slept. I probably wouldn't have slept, but I probably wouldn't have spent all that time in the hospital. Maybe not 12 hours, maybe 8. And maybe I would have learned a little bit about the city that we were in for so long, because I learned nothing because I was in the hospital all day. But hindsight, you always see things in hindsight. But just hang in there, preemie parents, and they're stronger than you know. So that's what I have. If you are a preemie parent and you have any stories, or if you have adopted a preemie, I know that a lot of you have because I have seen it in our adoption groups. And you want to leave a comment below and let me know how your baby's doing. I would love to hear. Or if you have a similar story, please comment below. Please go ahead and like my channel, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload new videos. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.